Long story short, it soon became clear that people who were not my cousins were watching. Started to grow. By 2009. There's several tens of thousands, 50 to 100,000 people who are using it. And that's when I frankly had trouble focusing on my day job. Set it up as a not-for-profit mission, free world-class education for anyone, anywhere. And it is admittedly a grandiose ambition. And one could argue it was a bit of a delusional mission. As part of that mission, which is arguably the mission of the entire global public education system, to provide as free and as world-class of an education to anyone, anywhere. In my head at the time, and this continues to be the three pillars of Khan Academy, the way that we attempt to do that in partnership with amazing teachers in the school system around the world is providing access to world-class materials. The second pillar is, if you do have access to that, it should be able to be at your own time and pace. This goes back to my cousins having gaps in their knowledge, but in a traditional model, you're just moved ahead. Those gaps accumulate. There's no way for you to fill them in. And this is not just in poor schools or rural schools or places where they don't have school. Even in some of the most elite schools in the world, this is going on, where students are just moved ahead at a set pace, and they accumulate those gaps. And then when they have trouble in a trigonometry class because they had weakness in geometry or weakness in algebra or weakness in negative numbers, the students kind of start believing it's them. They're just not meant for that subject. Well, it's really their gaps. And so personalization has been a second major pillar of Khan Academy. Personalization and mastery learning, which is the opportunity incentive to identify and fill in your gaps. And then the last pillar is how can someone take this learning on a platform like Khan Academy and use it as evidence to the world that they are capable. They could get a job. They could get academic credit. They could go to a graduate school. And then COVID hit. And in the weeks running up to COVID, it was one of those moments where it's actually the week running up to COVID, because it all happened very fast. Is one of those moments where you kind of look left, look right, and you say, I guess this is us. We couldn't have predicted the circumstance that was evolving. But if you just thought about it for a few seconds, really, it's like, well, okay, the world is about to shut down schools next week on a big scale. Parents, teachers, students are going to need something that's accessible, arguably free. They're going to need something that is trustworthy. They're going to need something that can cover across subjects and grades, ideally personalized for them, something that can be used with teachers, something can be used with parents in the house, but also ways for teachers to be able to track and then use that as a basis for other interactions with the student. And we saw our traffic, go up depending on the week by a factor of 250%. 300% registrations were 5 to 10x for parents and for students and teachers, and 20x for parents. And what's really interesting now is, as we go into this coming back to school, the writing's on the wall that this is going to be a strange back to school. You're going to have to either be socially distanced or have some type of shift-based schooling. There's going to be some subset of families who won't feel comfortable sending their kids to school. So you're going to have to do some form of virtual learning. You might have to have school shutdowns again if the virus rates pick back up. All of this is suboptimal, but a lot of what I've been thinking about is, the whole world has been thrown up in the air, and as it falls, how could it recrystallize? How can it resettle in a way that's maybe a better world? And one big question right now is that of accessibility, internet accessibility and device accessibility. The silver lining is that people have been talking about the digital divide for decades, essentially ever since the internet existed, and frankly, ever since computers existed. And now we are seeing an unusual energy, an unusual positive energy of closing that digital divide around the world, and fully recognizing that the situation is very different in urban centers in the U.S. versus India, but we are seeing that energy behind it. I've always been working on this assumption, which I think is holding true, that the adoption curve for internet and broadband and the cost curves are creating a world that in 10 or 15 years, these things will be truly accessible. I feel like that 10, 15 years is being pushed because of COVID, is being accelerated to a handful of years. And we're seeing certain areas where in a matter of weeks, things are being addressed there. I think another silver lining is the system as a whole is thinking about how can learning not be bound by time and space. yes, the in-person experience is incredibly important. I'm the one that always says, if I had to pick between an amazing teacher and amazing technology for my own children or for anyone's children, I would pick the amazing teacher every time. But ideally, you can do those things together, where amazing technology is in support of the amazing teacher, so that learning is not bound by time or space, so that you can personalize, meet the needs of the student, and the teacher is liberated to do higher order things, to focus on higher order development of their students. So, big picture, I think COVID, it's going to catalyze a lot of things in a lot of domains. We could talk about remote work, we could talk about this or that, but education, I think we're really in kind of the first half of this fairly rapid evolution that we're going to see, because the last 3 months, in some ways, were I think the warm up for what is going to happen this coming back to school, which is promising to be quite unusual.